Hi, I'm Lou Green. Welcome to America's Crossroads. Hi, welcome to America's Crossroads. I'm Lou Green. Tonight, we have a very exciting show full of music and fun and a little bit of politics. First, we're featuring Emily Asher, trombonist extraordinaire, and you'll see her story in a few minutes. Then we're bringing up the A-Team, Sharon and Mark Calvert, the founders of Ion Tampa Bay. And then we're going over to near Paris, France, to meet Robert Fienga, the music director of Paris Disney and his Buster Keaton project. This one will really grab you, so have fun and enjoy the show. Thank you.
Now take me to that land of jazz. Let me hear the kind of blues that Memphis has. I want to step to a tune that's full of ginger and pep. Pick 'em up and lay 'em down. Learn to do the razzmatazz. Now let me give you a warning. Won't get home until morning. Everybody's full of jazz, boy, in the loving land of jazz. There is music in each breeze. Even trombones grow on trees. You hear 'em moaning and groaning. They're tuneful harmonies. Now in every cabaret, it's the only thing they play. I'd love to hear it, must be near it, that's why I'd say.
Hi, I'm Lou Green with America's Crossroads, and we're in Essex, Connecticut at the Hot Steamed Jazz Festival. Does this thing behind us give you a clue?
Yep.
I'm with Emily Asher, trombonist extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire.
Oh, yeah. So tell me your life story in 2 sentences or less.
Well, I was born and now I'm here. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, and then moved to New York City when I was in my late 20s. I was a full-time junior high school band director, and then I moved to New York to make the big plunge to be a performer.
And it's working out.
It's working out. Thank heavens.
Yeah. It's not easy to break into New York. I moved here in 1971, and it was a little dicey at first.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, of course, that was a different time, but the challenges still remain of coming to a new city and not knowing a lot of people and just breaking in. So, yeah, those first couple years were a little rough, but now it feels like home.
Well, you came here at a pretty good time because there's a rising community of young jazz players in New York City. For a while, nothing was happening a few years ago. Yeah. They kind of left it to the old guys, and that's no way to replenish the herd.
Well, I feel very fortunate that I really did move to New York at the time that there were so many new young bands starting. Yeah. And I think that that's revived all the music in general for many generations.
Well, Emily, you're touring now, and is this throughout America and worldwide?
Yes, yeah, I just returned from Europe last week, actually. I was in a few countries over there, played some festivals in Holland, and then a gig in Copenhagen. And
you didn't come here on this train, did you?
I did. It was a very long trip, actually. I left 3 years ago and just returned last week.
Now, who did you play with on the West Coast? You played with a big band out there?
Well, in college I played with big bands. In Seattle I played with big bands. But I grew up playing with the Rise and Shine Jazz Band when I was a teenager. And then when I was in college, I met Bria Skonberg and Claire McKenna, who's now Claire Pearsall. And they put together Mighty Aphrodite. Right. And Mighty Aphrodite was an all-female band, and we played together for 5 years. We started in 2005. And then I started my own group in New York, and so that's the progression.
And the rest is history, and you're just getting started.
Yes. Yeah. So climbing the hill.
Well, it's interesting because she comes here to New York, and all of a sudden she's playing with the most famous band in the world. Emily's playing with the All-Stars.
I get to play with the All-Stars. I never could believe that I'm playing with the All-Stars. In Essex, Connecticut, no less.
Of course, in
Yes.
your wildest dreams.
Yes, and my dreams are wild.
So now you have some recordings.
I do. Yeah, I have 2 CDs. The first one is one that I did with a variety of great players. Dan Levinson, who's here this weekend, and Wycliffe Gordon is on that. That's called Dreams May Take You.
Yeah.
And then my second one is with my regular touring group now, with Emily Asher's Garden Party is the name of the band. And that's an EP, so it's just 6 tracks. And it's Hoagie Carmichael, all music of Hoagie Carmichael.
Good.
And we're just about to record at the end of July again. So
great,
I'm looking
great.
forward to that, another full-length CD.
Do you have the Emily Asher website yet?
I do. It's emilyasher.com.
See, just in case you're wondering.
Yes, yep. You can find me in all the regular places.
Well, and we'll keep finding you.
I hope so. Thank you so
you're a
much.
terrific player, and we'll play a little clip or two at the end of the interview.
Great.
I mean, on tape, not here.
Well, it's a pleasure to play with you this weekend and a pleasure to speak with you. And hello to everybody in Florida and beyond.
You will be seeing a lot more of Emily in the future.
I hope so.
Yeah. Good.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Emily
you.
Asher.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Lou.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
1, 2, 3. Now take me to that land of jazz. Let me hear the kind of blues that Memphis has. I wanna step to a tune that's full of ginger and pep. Pick 'em up and lay 'em down. Learn to do the razzmatazz. Now let me give you a warning. Won't get home until morning. Everybody's full of jazz, boy, in the loving land of jazz.
Now that's a wow. Emily can play that thing, and we're looking to see great things for her in the future. Now it's off to Eye on Tampa Bay with the A-Team, as I promised, Sharon and Mark Calvert.
Hi, I'm Sharon Calvert, and this is Eye on Tampa Bay. I've got Mark Calvert here with me today, and we're now in the midst of the general election cycle. Early voting has started in Hillsborough County. Absentee ballots have already gone out. People have already started voting. But there just doesn't seem to be that enthusiasm for this election. And we've got a real critical and very vital governor's race in the state of Florida. So, Mark, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen going into this election cycle?
Well, it'll probably be a little closer than we all thought it would be. We've got Governor Scott, who's been governor for 4 years now, and at least he's been working and running on a track record of success of increased jobs, improving the economy, and so forth across the state. And he seems to be hitting that theme home repeatedly on the campaign trail. For many times we've seen him, and plus also we're seeing some of that on the relentless advertising on the television channels these days. And then of course on the other side we have Charlie Crist, although I'm not quite sure which side he's representing these days, but he seems to at least drummed up a certain amount of enthusiasm from the Democratic Party these days. I think that's where he's running from. But he seems to have oscillated more than an oscillating fan on what his positions are. So if you're not a fan of him right now, you may be a fan of him soon, because he'll probably flip and flop back in your direction here soon.
Well, that's true. It's kind of interesting that it is as close as it is with the former Republican Charlie Crist running again as a Democrat. It's kind of interesting that many Democrats want to vote for him, because who knows what he may do if he gets elected.
Well, I'm trying to understand what he stands for. So
I think he's trying to understand that too.
Yeah, so if everybody figures that out, just let us know.
But we will say that it is unusual in these days that we have candidates run on something, they say they're going to do it, and they actually do it. And that's one of the things that I think just really isn't emphasized enough with Governor Scott's campaign and those who support him, is Governor Scott ran on a platform of fixing our economy, bringing jobs to this state, and he's done it.
Well, that's certainly something he's focused on. He has a record of success in that area. He's been hammering that point home over and over again, and that's quite a contrast than when Charlie Crist was governor. We actually lost a lot of jobs. Now you can debate on how much was Charlie's responsibility and this and that and so forth, but he was in charge, and the guy at the top has to take the good with the bad, and has to take the responsibility for the actual outcomes during his tenure. And he gets to pay for that.
Well, that's true, and I think he paid for it by running away, actually, from those problems. And somebody else, Governor Scott had to come in, and he took a lot of heat for actually fixing these problems. But we're on the right track now. I think even when you poll Floridians, wherever they are in the political spectrum, I think a lot of them will say, things are a lot different today than they were in 2008, 2009, and right when Governor Scott was going into office in 2010. Well, Governor Scott kind of had to come in and clean up what was left, and as as any leader, it's hard to make those tough decisions, but he did them. He took heat for that, but what a difference he's made in the time that he's been governor.
One of the true tests of leadership is making those tough decisions, making those tough choices, and Governor Scott did that. He had to cut the budget, make some really tough choices across the state budget that Charlie Crist did not make. He took the easy way out, left the state budget in a mess. Governor Scott had to make some very tough and unpopular decisions, and now we're able to reap the benefit from it. But that's the mark of leadership, making sometimes the unpopular choice and doing the right thing for the long term, for the beneficiary of the state.
And I hope that voters out there remember that it only takes a few votes per precinct in your county, in your state, to make a difference. Your vote counts. And if you've got your sample ballot and you've looked at it, you'll also note that there's several amendments on the 2014 ballot. At least it's not like the dozen or so that was on the 2012 ballot, thank goodness. There's only 3. But there's always a concern when we've got constitutional amendments on our ballot that do not go through a legislative process. The First Amendment has to do with the dedicating dock stamps basically for water and land conservation.
Well, and you have to understand that regardless of what your position is on water and land conservation and environmental issues, it is a top priority for the state legislature each and every year to understand the budgetary consequences of our environmental priorities, along with our education, our public safety, our economic development, and so forth. Or even insurance and recovery from a hurricane, God forbid. So our priorities may change from year to year. And so while I want to protect our environment as much as anybody else, we have to understand this is really a legislative priority and a budgetary priority that we need to hold our legislatures accountable on a year-by-year basis.
So I believe this is more best handled from a legislative position rather than putting in a constitutional amendment.
Right, because this earmarks funds that if we go through another downturn, these funds would not be available for other things that at that time might be a higher priority. So it should go through a legislative process. There's been a lot of media coverage and press on Amendment 2, which is the medical marijuana. And I think there's some gaping holes in that amendment.
Well, this is interesting, and you have to be careful from reading the actual language that's on the ballot is not necessarily the full language that's actually in the amendment itself. So I'd encourage you to read the actual language in the amendment, because one of the gaping hole there is, it does list several maladies that are suggested to be treatable by medical marijuana, but it also leaves the clause of anything else deemed medically necessary. So that's the big kind of concern that a lot of us have, that any willing doctor, still has to be a doctor, can write a referral. It's not necessarily a prescription. You can go down to Walgreens or CVS to go get filled, but to get your so-called marijuana or medical marijuana, which I'm not sure what the dosage is for, back spasms versus a headache, are for medical marijuana, but we're concerned that there will be too much leeway given to that deemed medically necessary clause going forward. And there's several other concerns also, but just by reading the language in the actual amendment, it's quite a bit different than what's on the ballot.
And we just got rid of the pill mills. So what is this going to cause? Another issue that we're going to have to be dealt with, because it's not going through the legislative process. And in fact, on the amendment, it says that the increased cost from this amendment to the state and local governors can't even be determined. So that's not good. That's not a good thing. We don't even know, as taxpayers in the state of Florida, what this may cost in terms of the cost of administering it, or the problems and issues that we're going to be confronting if this passes. So again, we have to be very careful with what ends up on a constitutional amendment on the ballot that does not go through a legislative process. I mean, we do elect our representatives up in Tallahassee. We should look for them to do the due diligence and the deliberative process for these issues instead of an amendment on a ballot.
Yep, I would agree. This is, again, something that's not really fit for how we would govern ourselves, and that would be the purpose of the state constitution. This, again, appears to be a legislative issue, and in fact, recently Governor Scott passed some similar medical marijuana for a specific
Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, for Charlotte's Web brand marijuana, but it's THC free, so it doesn't have any of the psychoactive ingredients, and it's primarily treatable, I believe, for convulsions, treatment for convulsions. So there is some progress in that area. So again, that was solved legislatively. So I would consider any decriminalization or medical marijuana to go through similar legislative processes as well.
And again, read the amendments, find out, get information about them, take them seriously. And if you don't understand them, I suggest you vote against them. Most of these issues should go through a deliberative process. But again, we're in early voting. Election day is November 4th. So please get out and vote. I'm Sharon Calvert, and this is Eye on Tampa Bay, along with Mark Calvert. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. Been my pleasure.
Thank you, Sharon and Mark. You always bring a great perspective to this show about the happenings in the Tampa Bay political scene. Now, we're going to visit with Robert Fienga in his little studio south of Paris and the wonders he did with the Buster Keaton silent film called 1 Week. Let's go to Paris. Today I'm with Robert Fienga, who is the musical director of Euro Disney, a composer, a conductor, and an all-around good guy. Project that you're working on, but in the meantime, give me a little background. How did you get into this music business, and what's it all about?
Well, I knew I wanted to be a musician when I probably turned 10 or 11. I was very much attracted to music. I was born in Paris, and my parents moved to south of France, and we had a small little apartment just behind the music school in Montpellier, south of France. And I was very much attracted by all the instruments I could hear, and then of course very soon I was enrolled in the music school, and one thing leads to another. I started on the trumpet, and I played the trombone for a very long time, always a little piano along. And one thing leads to another. Then I went to Paris and I studied there, and then I went to America to finish my studies.
So then you got the job at Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And you write the shows for Disney.
Yeah, when I came back from America, I worked for 3 years with Michel Legrand, and I got a job at Disney. And what I do for Disney, I write music for the shows and for all the bands in both parks.
Mm-hmm. And then you also do independent work.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. My music, my arrangements, and my composition are published, and I was asked to work on this Buster Keaton project for the Vernon Film Festival.
And tell us about this particular project and what you're up to here.
Yeah, so they gave me the film and they said, would you like to write the score for this film?
It's a silent movie, is that correct?
It's a silent movie, and they will project the film on the last evening of the film festival next November, coming up very soon. So I told them I was very interested writing the score for this film. I will have a 50-piece or 55-piece orchestra performing the music live while the film is projected.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing the music from soup to nuts, creating the music in your head from what you see here, and because it was a silent movie, it never had any music to begin with.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, always played some piano, or sometimes, a little orchestra, just to provide some music to the film. But this is true. You're looking always for an atmosphere. If you see an action going on, you want to match it as much as possible, but at the same time, not trying to Mickey Mouse the film too much with the music. You want to stay loose, and at the same time try to nail some important elements in the film, in the story of the film.
Well, Mickey Mouse started it all with the music, and you're just carrying it on and doing your own thing here, which is a nice deal. It's what, 22 minutes long?
It's a 22-minute long film.
And that's, if you ever try to write a complete musical score for a 55-piece orchestra that's 22 minutes long, good luck.
Well, it's a passion, and I'm so happy to do it, and I always wanted to write music, and I'm very thrilled to be able to do it today.
So Robert, just to demonstrate how do you do this, you've got two keyboards in your studio here and you're using a program. I'll get out of your way and you can just demonstrate a couple of tricks of the trade, maybe for the folks out there.
Yeah. I learned the old school with a pencil and a piece of paper. So if you look at the piano here, I probably, I always can, try to find ideas here, and everything I come up with, I always write it on paper first, because this is probably how music comes the easiest way for me. Then when I'm happy with this, I'm trying to match what's going on here time-wise. You see there is here a timer. So I know that from this point to this point I'm gonna need 12 bars, I'm going to need 24 bars or 36 bars, and I know at this point I will have to make a change and so forth. And then when I know exactly what I'm doing, then I punch everything that I do into this program called Sibelius, and I can play here for you. So here it's a reduction of what will the orchestra play at the end. So it's just two pianos. I could only do this only on one piano if I have to, but two pianos give me more orchestral possibilities when I orchestrate. So I'm going to play it for you. So this is exactly what the orchestra will play when it will be orchestrated. And I always make sure that it matches what's going on in the film. It's very interesting to listen to what you're doing because it really, it comes alive and it really speaks by itself. You see the image of the film, combined with the music, and you can always go back to it and say, yeah, this is the right atmosphere, or no, I want to change this again. It's either too much of that or not enough of that, and that's good to get those two things together.
Well, that's it, folks. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope to see you again next week on America's Crossroads. In the meantime, I'm going to hit the road one more time. Bye-bye.